I think it's interesting that I grew up in the church, and I've met many different people along the way. Some of my closest friends did not go to the church I went to, but the similarities as we grew up, and it's just nonprofit work or helping in the community. The things that we cared about were very much the same. We cared about people, we cared about immigration policy, we cared about the poor, the fatherless, the orphans. Like, we cared about all these different people, and people from different backgrounds, and unity and diversity and inclusion, and things like that, equity. So I always think it's interesting to get the perspectives from different people from different backgrounds, because what you realize is that the church isn't always doing the job, and sometimes if they are, they're not doing it well. And the diversity part of it, and inclusion and equity, gives you the opportunity to have these voices come in and go, we may not agree on beliefs or doctrine or even tradition. We may not even agree about history as it actually was. However, if you have the conversation and it's with different perspectives, you are able to see from different lenses and go, perhaps we can work this out better. And I've always been an advocate for that. Like, I grew up in the church, and I love my faith, and I grew into that because for many years I did not like it, and I tried to run away from it so badly. But as I grew older and had my own experiences and my own processing of it all, and my own realization that I believe in this God, and that I can actually create my own theology, and that I don't have to just go by what somebody's telling me, and I could still be myself, that really opened me up to say, yes, I believe in this, and it's good, and it's okay. But I don't think that can happen without the influence and the words and the experiences of other people. And I've got to say, having you here, Xiomara, as well, just having a lot of the people that I know work in these areas and do the work and sacrifice and pour in, and and see that, okay, yeah, we agree that these are things that have to get done, but I may not have seen it throughout my life in the church. I have seen it a whole lot outside of the church, and now the conversation is, well, how do we bridge that gap? How do we make the necessary changes to meet the needs that should be, highlighted and seen and heard, especially by the people that are going through it. But I think it's just important work. And you said before, like, faith was a big deal in my home. I think the faith I developed has been a miracle, but it's also been just been a wonderful experience overall. And so with that said, I just wanted to say there's different perspectives on how this work is being done. And there's still a whole lot of work to do in bringing unity in this country, and let's just say in our area, so that we work together to meet these needs.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that.
Definitely.
Okay, so then we'll transition to the next question. You are now teaching at Drew. You mentioned it before. They are your employer.
Wonderful.
So how is that? Because I met with you at Drew one time and we saw some of your students, and that was hysterical. So I don't see myself the age that I am. Allegedly. No, I am. But I don't see myself. So when I saw your students, say hi to Professor Guevara, and I was just like, what? We're just like you. Wow.
Not.
Oh my.
That was really,
They
really
are my children's age.
cool. That's incredible. But how is that experience?
Well, and thank you for asking this question. I'm grateful that Drew's given me the opportunity to go back and have a different experience or a different memory of Drew, right? So when I graduated, I just wanted to leave. I was successful academic-wise, and Drew Honduras project became my thing. My sophomore year, my junior year, my senior year. I went twice in a year sometimes.
You got published, right?
And graduated with honors. So I did get published because you had to write an honors thesis in order to graduate with honors, and I did.
Let's say all the things. Okay, let's say all the things. Absolutely.
So academically, I did fine, but I was ready. It was a hard, kind of realization of what the world may be. And for a long time, I just stayed away from Drew. I just stayed. And I did teach before at a competing college down the street from Drew for a long time, for over a decade at Fairleigh Dickinson University. And I loved I will always be a teacher. I believe I love it. It gives me energy. I just love learning from my students. So I'm going to be a professor, I think, for a long time. So I was at FDU for a long time. But because of where we worked and because of where the nonprofit I was leading was situated, Drew became a natural partner. And Drew is today different. They have now a program where it's called civic engagement leaders. They give scholarships for you to actually choose to work in the nonprofit or in the public sector. And so the students have to do some interning and volunteer hours. And so my organization that I was leading became one of the choice organizations to do that. And so because of that, I became, I have relationships with the administrators now at Drew and all around that. But at some point they said, hey, we teach about leadership and nonprofit. One day you should teach here. And I was like, yeah, one day. They knocked on my door one day, and so they said, hey, we'd love for you to teach a class called Leadership in Practice, and it was basically about the theory of leadership and then the theory of leadership in nonprofit. So how do you actually become a servant leader, and what does that look like? And then at the same time, what type of leader are you going to become? So, a lot of times I'm talking this theory on leadership from students that haven't been leaders yet. But I always remind them one day you will be. So these are the things you have to think about. And we talk about diversity, inclusion, and equity in the workplace because they will one day be those leaders and hiring practices. And what does that look like? So in my class, we have some books. And one of the books people always ask me, well, why are you teaching this? And it is about implicit bias. And I think it's important because I feel I'm shaping these leaders that one day will lead banks, companies, or the public sector, and to remind them of who we are, including the fact that we all have some implicit bias. And what does that look like when you're hiring somebody, when you're teaching somebody, when anything. And so when they said, this is the class you're going to be teaching, I was like, yeah, I'd love to do it. Why not? And at the same time, I get to now shape Drew in a way, right? I have students where we have these sometimes difficult conversations about leadership and diversity and implicit bias, but my students are open to it, and I feel that when they leave at the end of the semester, they have a different perspective on what that looks like. And as cheesy as it sounds, that's what, as a teacher, you want to say that you have affected somebody's thinking and hopefully what they'll do in the future. So for me, this has been a great kind of full circle moments of going back and being able to now be the professor who is okay with having these difficult conversations in the classroom. And so it's been great for me. I am now also part of the Alumni Association.
Are you really?
Because I think they know that they should have more diversity in the Alumni Association.
Nice.
And so I am now very committed to making sure that there is that diversity.
Wow. Man, that's huge, by the way. I'm sitting here you're back at the school and now you're teaching and then you're shaping and molding. That's huge. Anna and I had a group called the Reconciliation Table at our previous church, and the idea was the same: education, education, awareness, coming together with people from different backgrounds and just talking about these topics and experiences and going, well, okay, we have gone through this specific experience. You know, how do we feel about that? What do you think about that? Where do you think that's rooted? You know, it didn't just come from anywhere. Like this is, it rhymes throughout history that these things happen because we have implicit bias, right? And so it's just interesting to have that full circle moment. Maybe one day there will be one for us where we are invited and welcome into a church space that will go, we want to do this better. And that is my hope. And I think many people are doing that well. And it's definitely work that should continue. And I think it's going to be so impactful for those students as they go into the world and start their careers and build upon what you have taught them.
I'll say this too. One of the reasons I'm doing it too is because I think that when I was at Drew, I would have loved to see more people that look like me, right? And so, I hope and I feel that as you know, so my name is hard to say. Usually, you see it spelled, it's even harder for some people, but that's what we have to do, right? We have to push that envelope sometimes so that people get out of their comfort zones and get it. And so my students don't have to struggle with my first name. They only struggle with my last name. It's still a struggle. But I feel like when I walk in, they're not expecting this. You know, they're not expecting for me to walk in, and I would have loved to be that, to have a professor like me maybe at that time, you know, because we had so few professors.
Even our Spanish literature classes weren't people who were Latino, you know, which was hard. So I did want to talk about something really fun.
Sorry, I made a funny face before and he was laughing.
I wanted to talk about something really fun. I think we did it more than once, but we went to Puerto Rico. Did we do it more? We went more than once, right?
About 3 times, I think.
Did we really?
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, remember our trip to Puerto Rico? Remember our trips to Puerto Rico? I have so many pictures. I gotta show. Have you seen? Well, anyway, I have so many pictures, but correct me if I'm wrong, because
I will.
Esteban and Andres, I don't know if they'll ever see this, but they know who they are. Esteban and Andres rescued us one time because, you know, my uncle Tio, I love you, bendición, I love you, with mucho respect, he would not let us go out.
At all.
And we got dressed up. We were so cute. And we were. And
How
we
old
were
were
ready. I mean, we were still in college. No,
Oh, okay.
I think we were,
20.
we were still in college, and
we're in Puerto Rico, where like we should go and have fun.
Yeah.
yes,
No,
and my uncle, by the way, was like party animal. So I mean,
but
take
not
us
the week
out.
we were there.
No,
That week he stayed home every day.
no. So, but we had a friend from college, who lived in Puerto Rico, and he rescued us. Do you remember that? Was it New Year's?
It was for New Year's.
Do you remember? Like,
No.
what was your fondest memory?
I remember having an outfit that I was supposed to wear, like she gave me for Christmas, but her family fed me so much, I did not think I was gonna fit into it because I ate so much. It was like the same. Like
They're really trying to not get you to go out.
in every way.
Oh, no.
Every way. They just fed me so much that I was like,
funny.
I'm gonna fit into my clothes. So I fit into it.
That's how. This is my grandparents. I shared that in the ad about the pasteles. I'm like, it's no joke.
I had pasteles for breakfast, lunch, and
you see what I'm
dinner.
saying?
Oh my.
I thought that was
That's a
quite
lot.
natural until then I
That's a
realized
lot.
that this is heavy duty food here.
This is a
Like,
lot.
you can't do this. But I do remember they came to rescue us. That not on that evening day because they weren't going to let us out. But the next day we went to the beach.
They weren't
and
gonna
stuff
let you
with
out.
No,
Yeah.
no, they weren't gonna let us out. No. What was it like going to Puerto Rico?
You know, it was great. I just had this conversation about Puerto Rico. I've been to Puerto Rico many times, starting with you, and then subsequently with friends and other friends and things like that. You know, I love going to Puerto Rico because it's like you're in the U.S. But you're not. You're in Latin America.
Yeah.
Like I always tell people, like, yes, they're U.S., but they're not. You know. And I loved Puerto Rico because you are very unique and different than my own Ecuador, but not.
Yeah.
right? But like same value systems,
Yeah.
right? You still love your grandparents, you still love your family. You take care of community. The language is a shared language. Food may be the same, but you call it different, but that's great.
Right.
It's funny sometimes, sometimes not.
Yes.
I would make mistakes, and my, your grandmother used to love how I spoke Spanish. She would always compliment me. Nobody ever
right.
complimented
That's
me on my Spanish.
Yes.
So her mother loved it, her grandmother loved it, and I was like, oh my
Yes.
God, I do know how to speak Spanish. I say it. But no, I loved it, you know, and we visited some amazing places, right? So we went to the beaches, which were great. Old San Juan, you know, gone, but it's never the same, right? Until the first time is always like when it's like, wow, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, I got to do the pargueras, which is, you know, the glowfish. Only very few places in the world have these.
Right.
And Puerto Rico is one of them. But it was great. I mean, I think I got to see why we were so similar and not. You know? Well, the influence of the U.S. and then not the influence of the U.S.
I will
like
always treasure those times. And it's huge because my grandparents are not here anymore. My parents are not here anymore. Aunts and uncles are not here anymore. And so those were moments where, again, like we shared those moments as well. Like it's like so cool. But I have to ask, I mean, pasteles con ketchup or sin ketchup?
Con ketchup.
That's a huge question.
Sorry, it's a big thing.
Con ketchup. I mean, you learn from...
Yeah, it was probably you people that gave me all the ketchup. I don't know, because I've gotten in trouble. Some people are like, no, you shouldn't eat.
It's a division.
It's a big thing.
But I'm like, sorry, I'm team ketchup.
Yeah,
I eat it.
my grandmother would be horrified. Yeah, it's
Sorry,
the pastel.
It was that family. That family.
It was us. We did it. We did it to her.
I still do it. Now I've taught my Colombian husband to do it. I'm like, if you're gonna eat pastel, you gotta put ketchup on. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's a thing. Do it. Just do it.
I love the differences in culture as well, right? You said in the beginning, I appreciated your culture very much. Just going to the different Ecuadorian restaurants, language, music, traditions, and things like that. I've always appreciated all of that. And then in return, you've also experienced the island. And I never got the chance to go to Ecuador, and that was one of our dreams. That was one of our dreams.
We still have time.
We still have time, absolutely, and we should do it. So yeah, I appreciate all of that. You work at another really, really amazing organization, Greater Bergen Community Action. I do want you to tell us some of the things that you do there, including what are some of the policies and some of the work that you do specifically there.
Okay, great. So I work at Greater Community Action. Greater Community Action is an organization that was part of the Lyndon B. Johnson's fight against poverty. So across the country, there's about 1,200 community action agencies. They all look a little differently. A lot of them have this very similar programs, and then others don't. So like stable programs that everybody has and not. One of the amazing things about being a community action agency is that you get federal funding, and this federal funding may look different for everyone. The grant is different, but the idea of it is that it's like this money where you can use it to meet your community needs at that moment. So you can use that money today for maybe a literacy program, but if you think 3 years from now there's actually a need for like a food and nutrition program, you can change that, right? So it's not, so I think that's one of the best things, because the idea is to always be listening to your community and what those needs look like. So the organization I work for is one of them. We're located in Bergen County, and so we're the designated community agency in Bergen County. But I work for an amazing man who has had this vision of like, we don't have to stay in this box. We should do a lot of other things, and so we do. So we are actually outside of our geographic parameters. We have one of our biggest programs is called the Head Start program, which a lot of you may be familiar with, which provides 0 to 5 year olds who are low income. We call it income eligible because we don't like to say low income. Families with early Head Start program, like so learning. So an ability to screen if there's some disability needs, an ability to screen for health screening. So we have nurses on staff, we have disability needs, mental health specialists on staff, and then you have teachers on staff that are doing, you know, the teaching.
Is it from zero?
Zero.
Wow.
0 to 5.
Yeah.
So 0 to 3 is like early Head Start.
Yeah.
3 to 5 is Head Start, and that's so we have Head Starts in Patterson, the city of Patterson, all of Bergen County. So we have a few of them, and then we have about another few of them in Jersey City. So that's kind of like the catchment area. That's our biggest program, like our core program. But we have over 60 different grants. And one of the things that I admire of this organization is that they've done some very creative thinking. So we do have Head Start. We have some of other staple programs like weatherization, low-income home energy assistance, that sort of thing. But we also have a credit union.
Yes.
That's a subsidy, right?
Oh,
So the
that's cool.
idea of economic, you know, equity is a big thing for us, and we do it through this federal credit union. So
Right.
low income designated federal credit union. We're also what we call a CDFI, which is another type of economic engine that brings in money into the communities to be distributed to help with you know, credit builder loans, low interest rates, that sort of thing. And then we've also developed things. Like we build things and create things, which is one of the biggest things I love. We have some affordable housing units that are ours that we, you know, kind of built and now continue to manage. We are building currently something that's called the Unity Health Partnership, where we're the landlords, but we're not the landlords. We're going to be working. But inside this building, we have partners like the Community Food Bank. So looking at all the social, like health determinants and like really focusing on them. So we have a community food bank. We have behavioral health community organization that's going to be part of this building. We have a primary health care facility as well. So it's kind of like you walk in, what's your issue? You need primary health. Do you need behavioral health? Do you need food? You know what? And then we'll be doing our own services. So the organization is like looking everywhere. We do have education programs as well. So we work with a lot of youth who have like dropped out of high school but still want to do the GED. So it's like a GED program, but we do a lot more than that. Since I've been there about 2.5 years now, we just have we created an immigrant resource center. So part of that, we do legal immigration services, but we're also now the people that will be doing the refugee cash assistance for the county of Bergen, Hudson County, and Essex County. So we're doing a little bit, so we do direct cash assistance in partnership with the International Rescue Committee.
Wow.
And so, I mean, I could probably stay here and talk about everything.
I know. Do you oversee all of them?
Yeah, so lastly, I promise, our mission is that, you know, lives are changed here. We change lives every day. And I have to say that I think that we do every day. I feel that the work that we do through all the different things that we do, we are making a difference. And that is very important to me. So I do. I have many titles in this place. Wear a lot of hats here. So I am the Executive Vice President, Chief Operating Officer, and Chief Legal Officer of the organization.
That's how it goes with nonprofits.
So when you ask me...
if you're not wearing 3, you're not doing it right.
So when you're asking me, do? I do. We have a staff of over 500. I make decisions every day that affect all of our staff and affect our programs. I look at everything, the fiscal responsibility behind it. As an attorney, I'm reviewing contracts. I also manage the outside counsel that work with us on the many different things that we do.
Right.
And so, so I do oversee, make sure that programming is doing what they're supposed to be doing. But, you know, a lot of the compliance requirements, all of that stuff, that all falls on me on a daily basis.
Incredible and good. And I do love the building part as well. I love the innovation part, creativity, imaginative of like what the community needs, like imagining that. I believe that's something that has come more nowadays where
so the one last thing I promise, and I'll shut up about Great Bergen. The one thing that we're into, that the organization has been into, and we're about to do in a bigger way, is solar energy. So we're looking at bringing energy to a level for the community, and then
Right.
how do you do it? So we have our subsidy that it's called Cap Solar, and so we have put solar panels in other nonprofits so that their bills are cheaper.
Seriously?
But now with the new infrastructure bill that President Biden is bringing down to the community level, we'll be doing a lot more of that as well.
That's incredible.
Sorry.
Well, I want to make sure. No, do not be
Yeah.
sorry. We want to know
The Head
all
Start in
things.
Patterson is like a couple blocks from where I grew up.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
so I would
ask
always
you.
pass it and it'd be like,
So we have East
what
Side and
is
West
Greater?
Side.
Yeah. So mine is by Kennedy. Yeah, so it's West Side. And I, what's Greater Bergen? Actually, I was like little, and I was like, what is that?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, impacting
Yeah.
and seeing and helping. And we want to make sure that we have that information, the website, so anyone can check it out and go see all the things that Greater Bergen Community Action has to offer. It is incredible work. I think, it just goes in line with everything that you have building up on anyway. And they are extremely blessed to have you there.
Thanks.
Absolutely. And I think it's just great. I was on their website and I was looking at just a lot of, and again, I just love just the imagination part of it and creating. So that's really cool. I do want to say, and in this way we kind of start our closing, but after over decades of friendship, and I will not say how many because that's just not going to happen. But what are some of the greatest lessons that you have learned from friendship, from ours, if you want to delve into that, but from friendship, yeah. What are some of the great lessons?
I mean, I think that, and I've heard this before, right? So when you are born, your family is given to you, right? But you choose family, you choose who you want that to be family. I think that's what our friendship has become, and what many of my friendships are. I feel that I have a lot of friends who are my family, who are like my advisors, but also those people that kind of pick you up to go along with the ride, and then are there when the ride is not so fun anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that that's how I see it. Like that's how I see friendship today, right?
Absolutely.
That it's your chosen family. You get to choose it. So.
Yeah. Last episode we spoke about community, and it was a really good conversation on how we see relationships developing in this day and age. With social media and texting and so much like disconnect. Just how do we commune now? How do we connect with people now? So I thought that was interesting to think about, considering that growing up, it was a little different for us in that aspect where you knocked on each other's doors and yelled out the window, come down, and it was just a little different than what, our younger generation is developing in friendship. But I've definitely gleaned so much wisdom from you, even from earlier on. I mean, I lived a pretty secluded life, right, because of the bubble of religion and a lot of the ways that my parents tried to really, keep us, just sheltered, yeah. And I guess to avoid some of the things that they had seen in their own life. With that said, just dreaming together in your apartment or mine, growing up and seeing you develop as a person, and just always feeling like I was watching you grow, and helps me grow, right? I always thought kind of like that. So I want to ask you, because I learned so much from you, and I continue to, and I love that we still get to dream and we still get to share life. What are, I guess, like 2 wisdom nuggets that you could leave the people watching today?
Whoa. Okay. That's a lot. That's like very little. I thought you were asking me something about you, and I can answer that real quickly. Because I think she doesn't understand how much I admire the faith that you have. I don't have that strong faith foundation or background. I think I have faith in different ways, but not in that way. And I think that's amazing because you've been able to fight through a relationship and struggle through this relationship, but always understanding that that's the most important thing in your life. So I think faith has been important in your life no matter what. And that's amazing. Right? Like just with the lives that we led. So I think that was great. So I don't know if that's my nugget, but I just want you to know that.
Thank you.
I mean, I think most of the time people ask me about leadership and community and service. And I think that at this point in my life, I believe that you should find service in your life, but that's about finding your passion, about what's important to you, right? Like I tell people today, if I win the lottery, I'm going to have an animal shelter because that is a passion of mine today, right? But find that passion and just, keep working at it. You're going to do it. I think that the other thing when it comes to leadership today, I feel that the most important thing is to be courageous. Like it's not easy to be a leader. And it's not easy to stand in your values. And so you're going to need courage, right? To be able to say this is not right or wrong in a nonprofit where people think that everything should be great because that's what we do. No, just in general, like I just think that those are the things that you're going to have to keep in mind that that's going to be needed.
Well, my boys will be watching this, and I'll make sure they watch to the very end to hear those very words because that is good stuff right there.
Thank you.
Xiomara, I want to thank you so much for being here. I want to thank you for the conversation. This could have been like the whole podcast, I think, could just so many episodes with just our conversation because we have so many stories. So I hope that we get to talk again in this platform so people get to know you more as well. But I want to thank you for kicking us off with just being our first guest spot. I want to say thank you for the person that you are. Thank you for always being so genuine and being that person that you're saying you gave in your nugget of wisdom, which is the person who is courageous, the person who does not let the circumstances let her down. And you've been exemplary, not just to me, but to everybody who knows you. And then that goes on to generations because I get to tell my kids and they get to see you and hear, the person that you are. Thank you for sharing so much of what you do and just sharing just the fun things that we have experienced in our lives. And for being here today, I want to congratulate you on your endeavors and on all of your accomplishments. You've been well awarded, but it's still not enough in my eyes. I want to thank you for sharing childhood, teen years, young adult years, and still putting up with me.
I had to take a break.
The trips and I look forward to so many more. And we'll be sharing a lot more then. I hope you come back. So thank you, Xiomara, for being here. Thank you for the conversation. This has been just incredible. I really love it. Thank you for everyone who's watching, for all the comments, the likes, the sharing. Keep watching. There's going to be so much more. We look forward to more great conversations here at Caffeinated and Curious.